Welcome back, everybody. This is the Goldfishing playtest video for my $300 budget Necrobloom deck tech. I've actually made a full video explaining the entire deck with discussion for all of the individual cards. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link down in the description below. Watch that first and then come back to this video so you can see what the goal of the deck is and how we anticipate it to play out. Generally, I would expect this deck to generate a lethal board state by turn 8 and be able to swing for lethal by turn 9. And before we get into the playtest, I'd just like to ask if you like this content and want to see more Magic videos like this in the future, leave a like on the video and subscribe. I would appreciate it very much. Now, of course, with some new apparel, which you can see I am wearing my hat today, we need to slip into something a little bit more comfortable and before we head into the playtester. And so we're going to go into our goldfishing background here, and now we are ready to playtest this deck. So we are going to go ahead and take a look at our first opener here. We've got 3 lands. We've got a nice tutor for Field of the Dead. We've got some ramp in the form of Wayward Swordtooth, which is pretty awesome, and a self-mill card, and a finisher. So this is absolutely perfect. We are a little short on colors being produced here, I will say. We would like to see some black mana preferably, but I think that this is good enough to keep, and we can possibly play Echoing Deeps to hopefully copy something that Blanchwood Prowler is going to mill us on turn 2. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to show our commander here, the Necrobloom. And then, so we're going to go ahead and draw our first card. We'll start turn 1. Exotic Orchard, absolutely perfect. So we're going to drop this here, Forest, and pass. Go to turn 2, and then we're going to play, let's see, so we probably want the Exotic Orchard here, and then we're going to assume that this will tap, well, it won't really matter, but we'll assume that this will tap for all of our Abzan colors. Then we're going to tap 2 mana in total here to play out our Blanchwood Prowler. Now, Blanchwood Prowler says when it ETBs, mill 3 cards, and then you may put a land card from among the cards mill this way into your hand if you don't put a +1/+1 counter on Blanchwood Prowler. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right, so we've got Milling Over Grass, Broken Bond, and Llanowar Waste. So we'll have Llanowar Waste go to our hand, and the rest of these go to the graveyard. So we're looking pretty good here. Go to turn 3. Got another forest that we just drew, the Llanowar Wastes. So let's see, what do we want to potentially drop here? I don't think it really matters. We could generate another landfall trigger off of Demolition Field if we were to play it, but I think we want to save that until we have some landfall triggers on the field. So we do need the double. Oh, actually, we only need 1 green for Wayward Swordtooth. Let's just drop the Llanowar Wastes, and then we're going to go 3 mana to drop that Wayward Swordtooth. Now, Wayward Swordtooth, you may play an additional land on each of your turns, which is great because now we can play out this isolated chapel, which it does not matter entering tapped because we don't have a 1-drop, so let's just play that out. We'll go to turn 4 here, and now we have 4 mana to work with. So let's drop the Necrobloom first. So we have white, black, green, so that's perfect. So let's drop the Necrobloom with all of our mana. We'll run that out. So the Necrobloom is going to give lands cards in our graveyard dredge 2, which is awesome, but we don't have any cards in our graveyard. And so maybe for this turn, what we maybe want to do is run out this Demolition Field so that we can put a land into our graveyard to continue to self-mill us next turn. And then we can actually play 1 additional land off of Wayward Swordtooth still. So let's run out another forest. And I don't think we can do much after that. Well, does that actually change our play then? Because instead of casting the Necrobloom, we could potentially cast the Sowing Mycospawn, and maybe we actually don't do that. I think we would still want to cast the Necrobloom and just sandbag the 2 mana. Now, the Necrobloom will trigger and generate us 2 0/1 plant tokens, which we will then put onto the battlefield. So let's add 2 plants here to be used as some nice blockers if we need them. And we'll keep Necrobloom up here. So then we'll go next turn 5. Okay. So we have a few plays here, and before we actually consider this Rise of the Witch King in our hand, we need to ask ourselves if we have any cards in our graveyard that can be dredged with the Necrobloom, and we do not. So we're going to skip that trigger, and I'm actually going to keep the Necrobloom down here so that we can constantly be reminded of these triggers. We're going to put it right over our deck, perhaps. Actually, no, that looks a little bit awkward. Maybe we'll just keep it over our graveyard, and we'll maybe just move it up here so we're always reminded. Okay, So let's see. So our plays consist of cracking demolition field, search our library for a basic, put it on the battlefield. We will have 7 lands. So we'll start to be making some zombies with Necrobloom. We can drop 2 lands, which is awesome. So we're technically up to about 9 mana in theory. So we can drop the Sowing Mycospawn, searching up Field of the Dead. We can also, do we have the mana, color pips necessary? So we would have white, white, green, green, and then we don't have the black pips yet to cast Eerie Ultimatum, although if Echoing Deeps can possibly copy something in the graveyard then to produce black, then that would be great, but unfortunately we don't. We do have Rise of the Witch King as well, which can actually reanimate our grass to give everything of base power toughness 5/3. So I think the play here is to actually cast Sowing Mycospawn, which will get us Field of the Dead. And then if we play out Rise of the Witch King then, without kicking the Sowing Mycospawn, we can reanimate the grass. And so let's think this through. So if we play out Sowing Mycospawn for 4, that's going to generate us Field of the Dead, which will make 2 zombies off of Necrobloom and Field of the Dead. Then we drop 2 more lands, which will make us a total of 6 zombies for the turn. And then once we cast Rise of the Witch King, that will then reanimate Graz, and so those will be some pretty scary boys. So I think that's the play. I think we don't kick Sowing Mycospawn. So let's run this out here, and I actually like the way that Architect does this. So Sowing Mycospawn, we will use a forest. We need to save a black and a green, so I think we'll save the Llanowar Wastes and the snow-covered forest. So then we'll tap the Isolated Chapel, maybe the forest, and then the Demolition Field to pay for Sowing Mycospawn. When you cast the spell, search library for land card, put it on the battlefield, and shuffle. So we'll go ahead and grab ourselves Field of the Dead, and we'll move that to the battlefield. And the nice thing is that actually enters untapped. Well, I guess with Field of the Dead it enters tapped, but if it was an untapped land, it would enter untapped. So then that will generate us a total of 2 zombies off of the Necrobloom. So we're going to add a few zombies. We're gonna make 1 copy of this fella right here. And then with the Necrobloom then, so we have both of our pieces onto the field, and Wayward Swordtooth is still here. So we will then play out 2 more lands and generate ourselves 4 additional zombies off of the Necrobloom triggering. And let's see, I believe they don't meet the if you control some more lands. Oh, hold on. We need to think about this. We have 2 forests. Okay, so let's back up with the zombies here for a second. So we need. Okay, so we would remove the 2 zombies, I believe, because when Field of the Dead enters, we don't yet have that criteria to have 7 or more lands with different names, because we have 2 snow-covered forests on the field. So we would only make a total of 4 zombies for the turn, because once we actually play out Echoing Deeps, then we would get the 2 zombies, and then the swamp would make another 2. So we'll actually add 2 more copies of the zombies here, and we're going to organize it as such. Okay, so we're looking pretty good, and then with our 4 mana here, we do have enough to then cast our Rise of the Witch King. So each player sacks a creature. If you sacked a creature this way, you may return another permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Let's think about this for a moment. Do we have anything that we care about entering the graveyard? We might actually want to play. Oh, and Echoing Deeps will trigger as well. So it will miss on the copy trigger, so this will just be a colorless land essentially. So is there anything we want to potentially reanimate with Eerie Ultimatum? I don't think so. So I think we're probably just going to sack a plant for now. So then Rise of the Witch King will go into our graveyard, and then we will reanimate. Our Graz Unstoppable Juggernaut. So we'll move that to the battlefield. And now all of our creatures are base power and toughness 5/3, which I actually don't know how to do this with Architect. How do you actually... Let's just not care about the toughness for now. We'll just set this all to 5. So for the purposes of this video, okay, we're going to keep Wayward Swordtooth as a 5/5. This will be a 5/3. This will be a 5/3. And then all of our zombies are going to be 5/3s which is pretty spectacular. So at this point, we're pretty much the arch enemy in the game, but we can swing with the plant, the Wayward Swordtooth, the Blanchwood, and the Sowing Mycospawn. Oh wait, no, that entered this turn. So by turn 5, we're able to swing with 15 power, and by turn 6, we have a lot more power on board. So let's just play out one more turn here. We'll go to turn 8. Okay, so Mesmeric Orb is great. So we didn't draw a land, unfortunately, but do we have the mana to cast Eerie Ultimatum? We have black. Let's see, black. We're missing the 3rd black pip. However, what we can do is crack the Demolition Field, and then in turn 7, we'd be able to mill a lot with Mesmeric Orb as well. So let's actually do that. So let's crack the Demolition Field to destroy target non-basic land and opponent controls. This will go to the graveyard. And then we will search ourselves up a basic, which I think will be a snow-covered swamp. So let's do that. We'll move that to the battlefield. And does that enter untapped? Basically, I can put it on battlefield. Oh, it is untapped. That is absolutely awesome. Okay, so we've tapped the 2 there. So this enters untapped. So we make 2 more zombies. So we're going to create 2 more token copies of these zombies. And so we'll do just stacks of 5 just for organizational purposes here. So a Field of the Dead, Necrobloom trigger, make the zombies. Then we can play our Mesmeric Orb. So we'll tap Echoing Deep and Field of the Dead to cast our Mesmeric Orb, which is going to be awesome. Whenever a permanent becomes untapped, that permanent's controller mills a card. And then, so that will also enable our Necrobloom to dredge us out that Demolition Field again next turn to create more zombies. And then I think we actually have to pass. We don't have anything else that we can sink mana into, but we'll be able to attack with a buttload of zombies. And we're going to set these to 5 power as well. Once again, everything is a 5/3 off of Graz. And then we'll just do one more turn here. So we're going to tap all of our mana just so that we can get extra mill. So then as we go to next turn, so first we would have untap, and then we would trigger the Mesmeric Orb. So we would have our card here go into the graveyard. So we would mill a total of, let's see. So let's say that we also had like 4 of our zombies or we'll say 5 of our creatures on tap. Okay, so we'll mill a total of 5 for our creatures, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we will upkeep and draw. And with the Necrobloom, we will look at that. Let's look at our graveyard to see what we have for the dredge trigger. We definitely want this Vesuva, I'm thinking, off of first glance here. Yes, we're going to return this to our hand, which is absolutely amazing for a 3rd copy of Field of the Dead. And then so we'll mill 2 off of that. And then we will play our land for the turn. Now, Vesuva, I guess it could, well, no, we still want it to enter as a copy of Field of the Dead, I'm thinking. So then we will have, technically, I think Field of the Dead triggers, because Vesuva, let's see, it enters tapped as a copy of any land on the battlefield. So would Field of the Dead trigger still? It ETB's tapped whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under your control. You control several more lands with different, oh yeah, okay, so it doesn't care about the land entering. You just have to have the condition met for the 7 untapped lands. So that will then create a total of 3 zombies here off of Field of the Dead, the Necrobloom, and Vesuva. So now we've got a healthy collection of zombies. And let's put these boys back. So now we have a total of 9 zombies. And then let's see, we still don't have the mana to cast, although we could just crack. Oh wait, no, we don't have Demolition Field. So then if Graz was destroyed, which we'll just assume that it gets swords, right? Let's just assume. So all of our stuff is going to shrink, which I will adjust in a moment. But let's just see what we would draw next off of the next card of our deck. And let's just do the same thing here. Let's assume we have 5 creatures that will tap during the turn to attack, and then all of our lands. So then we would mill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if we haven't already won the game, we would mill 14 cards. So it would be this card, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14. And so now we would have the dredge sugar off of the Necrobloom, and we'd be looking for an untapped source of black, I believe. So let's look at our graveyard. Do we have any untapped swamps? Yes, we do. We're going to move that to our hand. Boom, we run out the swamp. We make 3 more zombies, and then we can cast our Eerie Ultimatum to now spew everything onto the battlefield that is a permanent card with different names. So that is going to be enough value, I think, to win us the game by turn 8 or turn 9 if we already didn't win with those 5/3 zombies. Okay. That was an absolutely perfect playtest. Let's go one more here. All right, so we've got an Obscure Storefront as our land. We've only got 1 land, so we're going to mulligan this. We want at least 3 lands, I think. Okay, so we've got 3 lands, but we're missing the green, which I think is okay in this particular instance because we've got an Undead Butler for turn 2, although that might screw us in the future. So let's keep this hand, and we're going to sort our lands such that they will be on the left side of the screen. And so we'll go to turn 1. Okay, Springbloom Druid, we really want to be drawing a green source here, so we'll run out a swamp for turn 1 and pass. Awesome. We've got the Golgari Rot Farm, so let's run the Golgari Rot Farm out. And I think we want to probably actually, oops, I'm sorry, this goes back into our, shoot. Okay, my apologies, I hit next turn, so we're just going to do our turn 2 play here, and then we'll consider it turn 3. So we'll run out the Golgari Rot Farm. We will return this to our hand, and then I think what we want to do is possibly just bin the Dark Depths for now, because it's not of particular use at the moment without Thespian Stage. So let's return that to our graveyard. And then turn 3, of course, we've already drawn our card. So we definitely, okay, so then this untaps. So now we can run out the Springbloom Druid to advance ourselves by 1 mana. So let's think for a second. Do we want the Springbloom Druid? You may sack a land if you do search library for up to 2 basic land card. Okay, well that would not be good. Although we could sack a swamp, I'm thinking. The swamp that we would play for the turn. Then, or we could play Undead Butler, or we could play Rite of the Reliquary. And I think we always want to be ramping. We don't yet have any synergy with our graveyard for Undead Butler, so let's actually run out this swamp as our land for turn, and then we'll play our Springbloom Druid. So then we will sack the swamp, and we will search for, I'm thinking a, let's see, what do we have in our hand? So I think we want probably just 2 forests, if I'm being honest. I think we want a snow-covered forest and a regular forest. Let's grab both of those. We're going to move to hand, or I'm sorry, this should be moved to the battlefield. So let's see. So we have the snow-covered forest enter, and then this will enter tapped. Put them on a battlefield tapped. Okay. And then this will be tapped from casting the Springbloom Druid. Perfect. Okay, so next turn, turn 4. Now, what I would like to do is cast the Necrobloom. I'm thinking, although perhaps we want to, I think we actually want to run out a white of the Reliquary and Undead Butler first, and I'm thinking maybe on that Springbloom Druid cast we should have grabbed ourselves a Plains, because then we could be able to cast the Necrobloom and then hit the landfall trigger. But 1 plant doesn't really matter, so I don't think it's really quite time to cast the Necrobloom. We'll hold back a little bit here. So in that case, what we're going to do is we are going to probably run out a basic, and we're going to play White of the Reliquary and Undead Butler. So let's do the swamp, so we have the 2 black sources available. So let's do Undead Butler first, tapping for 2 for Undead Butler. I'm going to ETBs mill 3 cards, so we're going to mill, let's just see what these are. Okay, so Plains will go to our graveyard, Fecund Green Shell will go to our graveyard, and then Search for Blacks will go to our graveyard as well. Not bad. And then we'll go Swamp and a Forest for a White of the Reliquary. And so what we need then is to let this have Summoning Sickness wear off, so then we can sack Undead Butler probably next turn to search for Field of the Dead. Okay, so I think that's our mana for turn 4. Let's go to turn 5. So a little bit of a slower start this particular game. So if we play the Necrobloom, oh shoot, we do need the white mana for that. Darn. So we're going to miss out on a plant token, which is unfortunate. Search your library for a land card, put it on battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So let's think about this. We play the so we drop the plains, we play the Necrobloom, right? And then if we, do we have enough mana? Put it onto the battlefield tapped. Okay, so we don't have enough mana for a follow-up Wayward Swordtooth, which is fine because I think we're short of some mana there anyway. So I think that's just the play. I think we just do the Necrobloom. Although let's see what we have in our graveyard here for. I think we save Rise of the Witch King, although this will depend on what our opponents have on board. So let's run out a plains, and then we are going to tap green, white, black, and a colorless. I think that works for the Necrobloom. And then we are going to activate the White of the Reliquary to sack the Undead Butler, and we're going to search for Field of the Dead. Field of the Dead will go to the battlefield tapped. And then Undead Butler, when it dies, you may exile it. So when you do return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So let's technically Blex is. So if we look at, I think if we flip this to search for Blex for a moment, this is a good self-milling card draw card, which we could theoretically return with Undead Butler, but I think Fecund Greenshell is actually better because we're still producing plants off of the Necrobloom at the moment. So let's move this to our hand. And then let's see. So I think that allowed us to draw that card, which is great. So now I don't think we have anything else we can do on our turn. So we'll go to turn 6, and we will have a dredge trigger. Now, this card we're going to draw will be on the top of our deck. So let's put this back on the top of our deck for a moment. So let's look at our graveyard. Do we want to dredge something back to our hand? I think we want this swamp, if I'm being honest, because we have enough stuff here. Well, but we have enough lands in hand. Do we care about milling some more? I think we do want to mill, though. I think we do want to mill to see if we can get something better off of Rise of the Witch King, and with Wayward Swordtooth, we want as many lands as possible. So we're going to do that dredge trigger. We're going to move, let's see, do we already have a swamp, so we're going to grab the snow-covered plains to meet that Field of the Dead threshold. So then we will mill 2 off of dredge, which is great because we got Exotic Orchard back in the graveyard. So now, let's see, so we'll start turn 6. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7 mana. We can make 2 land drops. So we are on 9 mana in theory. The question is, I think, okay, so if we play Wayward Swordtooth, I think we have enough mana to, let's see, do we care about the Fecund trigger if we only get, well, we're past making the plants, I think, so we don't care about Fecund Greenshell a ton, so maybe we actually save this and then we just cast Rise of the Witch King as our second spell, which I think, that's not quite good enough. I think that's not quite good enough. So the strategy, I think, is to really just make as many land drops as we can. So maybe we actually do run out Fecund Greenshell with toughness greater than its power enters, because we would theoretically get another land drop off of Fecund Greenshell by itself entering. So let's do this. Let's go green, white, and then colorless for Wayward Swordtooth. Oh, but we won't have the mana. We'll only have 4 mana because Riveteer's Overlooked forces the land to come in tapped, and so does Escape Tunnel. That is unfortunate. Well, we could drop the plains instead and just save our land drops. So let's do that instead. Okay, so we'll run out Wayward Swordtooth, which will allow us to play additional lands. And we haven't yet made a land drop, so then let's make a land drop now, I'm thinking. So if we run out the snow-covered plains, that will give us 2 zombies, which we are going to make off of the Necrobloom. So let's add a couple of zombie boys. And then we have 5 mana and enough colors to cast Fecund Green Shell. So we've got 1 land drop made. So let's then drop our next land drop here. We'll do Riveteer's Overlook. And then we will crack it right away. So that's 2 land drops. So we're just going to make, let's see, so it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll add 4 more zombies. So create 4 copies. Then this will search for, let's see, so that's 7. So I think we want probably just more, I think a swamp for potential Eerie Ultimatum cast, and then a forest is what I'm thinking. Yeah, we don't need that. Okay, so we'll grab a forest. That will move to the battlefield. Yep. And that will enter tapped. So then we have enough for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we've got the 2 green to cast Fecund Green Shell. And I already made the tokens off of that forest entering. So this will say whenever it or another creature you control with toughness greater than its power enters like the top card of the library, if it's a land card, you may put it on the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So let's look at the top card of our library. It is a Kamal, Heart of Krosa, so that will go into our hand, which is awesome. We needed that nice overrun finisher. Okay, and then, so we'll go next turn, and we do have the option actually to sack another creature. So let's actually tap White of the Reliquary to then sack another zombie, we'll say. So that will disappear, and we will search for probably one of our, let's see what we have for lands. Probably just a Vesuva is what I'm thinking, right? Because we want that second copy of Field of the Dead, which I am now realizing I sequenced wrong. So let's go, where's our Vesuva? Unless it's in our graveyard. So we'll grab Vesuva. That goes on to the battlefield tapped. And then assuming that we actually sequence this correctly, we will get an additional, I believe, let's see, because we made 4 zombies. So I think we would make an additional, Vesuva. I think we'd make an additional 6 zombies, or I'm sorry, 3 zombies, right? Because we had the plains enter, and then the Riveteer's Overlook, and then the forest enter. So assuming we played that right, I think I'm just going to add 3 additional token copies of zombies. Okay, so we are stacked on these zombie tokens here, and once again, I'm going to make this into a pile of 5, just so that you guys can kind of see this a little bit better. So we have 8 zombies on board, so that's tapped, and then we sack the zombie. Okay, so now I think we go to our turn 7 here. So we've got 3 copies of Field of the Dead going, and as many land drops as we want. So now we have a dredge trigger. So before we actually see what this card is, we probably would take the dredge trigger to continue to cracking. Probably just return the Riveteer's Overlook to our hand again, so we get a bunch of land drops. So let's move that back to our hand. So now, oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana at our disposal, which means that we can drop our Kamal, Heart of Krosa. But before we do that, we're going to play and crack Escape Tunnel and Riveteer's Overlook to then generate, go find ourselves, I don't know, more forests perhaps. Move that to the battlefield, and then we are almost out of basics, so this is one danger that you can kind of run into. Oh, we might actually be out of basics straight up in the deck. Okay, well, that's a little awkward. Okay, so this is the last turn that we can do this kind of bullshit. So these will enter tapped, and then, so that will generate us a total of, let's see, so it would be 4 land drops times 3 copies of the Field of the Dead, so that's an additional 12 zombies. We're going to create 6 copies, and we're going to create 6 more copies. My goodness. Also, can you actually select multiple cards? No way. I love Archidect. This is so cool. Okay, so we're going to grab, oops, this one. Wait, how do I, okay, there we go. So this one. So these have Summoning Sickness. Then for 8 mana, oh my god, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can run out our Kamal Heart of Kroza, which is going to give all of our stuff +3/+3, which is a total of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. 40, 50 plus 8 is 58 plus, what is this? So it's 65. Plus, we have White of the Reliquary to sack another creature to generate more zombies for 3 more zombies. So we have at least 65 plus, so 69 power on board, plus another 5 off of White of the, so 74 power on board off of Kamal, triggering on combat. And so that is definitely going to take 1 or 2 players out. And now, assuming we make that additional land drop with White of the Reliquary, sacking a zombie, let's just see what we would. We could run out another one of our lands, but let's just go to next turn. Let's just see what the top 2 cards of our graveyard are if we didn't. Okay, Thespian Stage, so another copy of Field of the Dead, and then Winding Way, which can then draw us more cards, which is absolutely awesome. So I think that would be lethal by about turn 8 or turn 7 once again. So quite a potent commander, the Necrobloom. I am pleasantly surprised at how much you could do with this commander with just a $300 budget. So that will be the video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing how this deck functions. It pops off pretty hard. And of course, we are assuming that our commander was not removed, but even if it is removed, we have enough ramp to replay it for 6 mana. This is one of those commanders where the effect is so good, in my personal opinion, that we're happy to recast it for 6 mana. And Field of the Dead, of course, being mostly untargetable, although if it gets generous gifted, we can once again play Rise of the Witch King to return it back to the battlefield, right? So that's just the versatility and endurance of a land reanimator type of deck helmed by the Necrobloom. So that's the video, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it. And if you are interested in any more Abzan colored reanimator decks, check out my Anixia Hand of Erebos deck tech. That's actually a deck that reanimates enchantments out of the yard, particularly the token doubling enchantments, and so you can do all kinds of exponential shenanigans with Anixia. So check that out if you are interested in that. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and hopefully we'll see you all in the next one.